This is Larry. Haven't heard much about undrafted free agent offensive lineman Joey Fisher. Well, Brad is an ex-offensive lineman and had a chance to come up to camp and watch Fisher do his thing. I asked Chris Forster about Fisher. I said, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? Before I could even get the question out, he's like, he's a guard. He's a guard. I mean, he wasn't like, he's like, he could be a center down the road, but he's a guard. He's an interior guy. He's not a tackle because of the arm length or lack of arm length. What do you see with the 49er offensive line period, or in general, I should say, and what do you see with Mr. Fisher?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell coming out of Shepard, like the type of physicality he has. He definitely was a guard. Like you could see, he doesn't have that type of length that you want at the tackle position. So the natural switch to guard made sense to me. To be honest, I didn't see a whole lot from Fisher. I don't have a comprehensive scouting report of what he was able to do in training camp because, as you know, Larry, if you were at training camp, you had to evaluate quarterbacks because that was the number one point of emphasis for anyone at training camp. And of course, um, Joey Fisher was running with the threes, and so I didn't get a great look at Fisher, to just be bluntly honest. But I do think he does have that power. He's got a really good frame to be a guard. I mean, you see him, he walking around, he looks like an NFL offensive lineman. What I imagine what's going to happen with Fisher is he'll be a practice squad guy, and he's going to be a guy that could probably earn a roster spot maybe a year or two down the road. But the overall offensive line, I think that has definitely been something that has come into focus, especially these last 2 days at joint practice, because of no more Mike McGlinchey. You insert Colton McKivitz, and also the 49ers have already been dealt a bunch of injuries on the offensive line with Jalen Moore getting hurt. He's your primary swing tackle. That means and we already know Trent Williams takes a lot of rest days. So there's a lot of times where the 49ers are running out Matt Pryor, Leroy Watson as with your starting group. Leroy Watson is a converted tight end who's still kind of learning the position. He's got a good frame, good, really long arms, good base, and he's shown some promise, but he's still raw in what he's able to do. And so I think, like, when you're looking at the overall offensive line, I think a lot of questions have come up about Colton, and also questions that I have are, how's the depth going to hold up throughout the year, especially at the tackle position, because last year's primary swing tackle is now your starting right tackle, and your backup swing tackle is now your primary, but he's hurt. So they're already diving deep into their depth bag on the offensive line.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the people that criticize the Niners' offensive line, I don't see huge areas of criticism here. I really don't. Trent is Trent. I like the Burford Banks combo at guard. I think they're going to be there for a while. I like Jake Brendel at center. I like Feliciano as the backup center. You also have, McKivitz, who I think is a very underrated offensive lineman, playing right tackle. He's probably best as kind of like that first reserve offensive lineman because he can play all five spots. But I'm okay with him at right tackle. I think he'll do a serviceable job. We asked Chris Forster the other day about some of the young guys, right? Nick Zakel and Jason Poe and Joey Fisher and Ilm Manning, who's actually kind of impressed me a little bit too, Ilm Manning. But he said they're all really improved and this and that, from either from minicamp till now or from last year to this year, Jalen Moore. But then he also said, but don't confuse, they're all really improved with they're ready. They're not ready. So I kind of think they're going to keep 8 offensive linemen, the 5 starters,
Yep.
John Feliciano, Nick Zakel. And just from talking to some of the people around the team, I get the sense that the swing tackle is going to come from outside the organization and not from – I don't think it's going to be Pryor. I don't think it's going to be Jalen Moore. I don't think it's going to be Leroy Watson. I saw Cincinnati may move off of Lael Collins at the cut down. I think that player would be of a lot of interest to me. There's probably a couple other tackles. Deontay Smith is a guy that I really like, who's a young offensive lineman for the Bengals as well, who's an offensive tackle from East Carolina. I really liked him in the draft a couple years ago. I think Cincinnati is a team that I would target as far as a trade. But if I could get Lael Collins, I'd give a fourth round pick to Cincinnati for Lael Collins. Or if there was an offensive lineman that was drafted high, a tackle that just hasn't come of age somewhere else, like they did with Lake and Tomlinson, who the Niners had a high grade on. This is maybe an opportunity to make that kind of a deal. But I see a deal coming for that swing tackle.
I mean, I like that projection because obviously we've seen Jalen Moore for a couple years now, and I don't think he doesn't have ability. His problem is just consistency. Being able to do his job at a consistent level has been his biggest issue. Um, we remember what when he came in against Denver. I mean, he probably had the worst like 4 or 5 play series I have seen from an offensive lineman in a long time. He was instantly benched. They brought in Colton McKivitz. But then he rebounded against the Panthers when he had to start in place of Trent Williams. So he he's an interesting eval because I think he has a pretty solid body for playing tackle. He's got a starting body, but he's just inconsistent, and it's hard to really determine what you're going to get from him. So, I haven't seen enough from Matt Pryor to convince me one way or the other that he's even like he should be the guy either. I like what I've seen from Feliciano. I think Zakel is definitely one of those prospects that they want to develop at center and continue for him to get better. And I do agree they are going to keep 8 offensive linemen. I mean, they got to at this point. Um, but yeah, if that makes sense to me, I would say Lael Collins is going to be better than any other tackle, swing tackle that you have by a far margin. I mean, he could even compete probably at right tackle with Colton McKivitz. Lael like has shown he's a talented player. It just hasn't worked with the Bengals, but I mean, he's a little bit undersized, but dang, he moves well. He's strong. He's got good technique, and he would fit this kind of hybrid outside zone gap scheme, kind of run blocking, like the way they go get after it as run blockers. He would fit exactly what the 49ers have. But in regards to the starters, I agree. I think Burford, Brendel, and Banks are all going to improve this year. I think Trent stays the same, and I think Colton McKivitz can get the job done. Um, it's just again when you get into those situations where it's 3rd and 15 and you got to have it and you got to have a 5 to 7 step drop. How is he going to hold up? And I think that's the other thing that we just got to wait and see. But we've also seen Colton play really well. You go back to that Week 18 performance against the Rams when he had to step in at left tackle for Trent Williams in a must-win game in 2021, and he's going up against Von Miller and Leonard Floyd. He played fantastic. I don't think he gave up a sack. He played really well. So Colton can do it. There's not concerns that he can or cannot do it. He can do it. It's just I know people are getting concerned, especially after hearing that, Max Crosby beat him on a couple reps today or the day before.